This is really important. Some of you think that you found your Jonathan, like David and Jonathan, but you really found your Delilah. And we're not exactly in biblical times. We use the scriptures to teach us. I still believe if someone is acting like a Delilah or acting like a Jezebel, that is still a human who may be under the control of a spirit. And so deliverance is still possible for that individual. But once the Lord shows you who someone is, you act accordingly or pray accordingly, okay? So let's talk about this. When people discuss the relationship between David and Jonathan, the focus is often on their deep friendship, their brotherly love, and the beauty of their connection. But if we only see their relationship through an emotional or sentimental lens, we miss the deeper spiritual implications of what was happening. This wasn't just about friendship. This was about revelation, loyalty to God's anointing, and forsaking the old for the new. Jonathan clearly had some type of revelation that made him forsake a falling system. That's key, okay? Jonathan wasn't just a loyal friend. He was the son of Saul, the prince of Israel, and the heir to a throne. He was deeply entrenched in a corrupt and failing system that was actively opposing God's will. Saul had been rejected by God in 1 Samuel 15:26, but Jonathan was still part of his house. He was his son, part of his military, and part of the structure that was fighting against God's anointed King David. For many people in similar positions where they realize the system they are in is wrong, it's not that easy for them to walk away. Some people recognize they're in something dark, but they make excuses to stay. Others say, oh, it's not all that bad. In fact, many struggle with the idea of losing comfort, status, or relationships if they separate from what they know. But Jonathan didn't hesitate. The moment God revealed to him, because God had to be the one to reveal it, that David was his chosen one, he immediately aligned himself with God's will, even though it meant betraying his own father in 1 Samuel 18:3-4. Jonathan literally stripped himself of his royal robe, armor, and weapon. This wasn't just a gesture of friendship. This was Jonathan renouncing his own right to the throne. This wasn't just about David being cool or them being best close friendsies. Because let's be real, if this were only about David's personality, Jonathan wouldn't have left everything behind to follow him into the wilderness. Jonathan had everything in the palace: comfort, power, wealth, influence. Yet he gave all that up willingly to align himself with God's will with David, who at the time had nothing but caves and a few loyal men. This wasn't just about status. This wasn't about, oh, David is a great guy. This was about where God's presence was. This was about where the anointing was. This was about the revelation of God. And when Jonathan saw God's anointing on David, he immediately forsook everything else to follow where God was moving. He didn't wait, hesitate, or calculate his losses. He obeyed. Not everyone who comes like Jonathan is really Jonathan. They might be your Delilah. Now, here's the fleshly part we need to talk about. Some people will approach you like Jonathan, but they're really Delilah in disguise. Jonathan genuinely loved David, sought no personal gain, and was willing to sacrifice for him. But there are people today who see God's hand on you, and instead of coming with pure intentions, they see an opportunity to use you, to get ahead at your expense. They don't honor you or respect you. They just see what they can extract from you. They come pretending to be for you, but they're just gathering intel for their own benefit to use against you or to sell you out because they're a sellout. They aren't laying down anything for the covenant like Jonathan did. They just want to stand close enough to receive your favor. This is the spirit of Delilah in disguise, getting close under the pretense of love, but ultimately looking for a way to sell you out. Judges 16:4-6. Not everyone who comes with covenantal language actually intends to keep it or use it for your benefit. Some people will only align with you as long as it benefits them. David had to test Jonathan's loyalty. He wasn't just going to blindly trust someone who came out of Saul's house because Saul tried to kill him. And we should do the same in our relationships today. And so this is the clear choice. For some of y'all who are called to be a Jonathan, but you're acting like Delilah, and then zoom that out. For some of you who are still in dark networks, but the Lord is convicting you and showing you the truth, do you stay in the palace or do you follow God? The sad truth is, many people today are faced with the same decision Jonathan had, but they choose comfort over calling. God is revealing where he's moving, but people are hesitating because it doesn't look good for business. It's not the aesthetic they want to be associated with. It requires sacrificing too much. They rather keep their seat at Saul's table. Jonathan saw where God was moving, and obeyed immediately. But many people today are seeing it and choosing vanity, pride, money, and comfort instead. And I also think that's from a place of self-hatred. Learn to love yourself. God is revealing himself to you. The question is, will you obey like Jonathan, or will you stay in Saul's house until it falls?